Hello and welcome to episode 191 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is July 3rd, 2023. Today I'm wearing two rather old things and I looked on my Ravelry pages. They both do have Ravelry pages, so that's a good thing. But they don't give dates when I started or finished the project. So all I can go by is that the project page for this shawl was created in 2012. So I must have crocheted this sometime before. And I tried to find out at what time this colorway by Opal was sold, but I couldn't find the information. But I think it was 2009 because there must have been a cotton series, but there wasn't a picture. It just said 2009, and because there was no picture and it wasn't on any of the other pictures, I think it might have been part of the 2009 series. So it's a long time ago. And back then I was working at Wollerödel, which was a German yarn store or a yarn store chain. And this was one of the cases when I saw the yarn and I just fell in love with it. I just loved the combination of the yellow, the orange, and the pale pink, and it reminded me of raspberry and vanilla ice cream. So that's the project name is vanilla raspberry shawl, or is it ice cream shawl? I don't know, but that was the idea I had with the yarn, and then I took quite some time looking for a pattern. And when I found this crochet pattern, I knew I wanted to crochet a shawl out of this colorway. And I do really like the motifs. So each of these spiral thingies is crocheted separately. And then I crochet the pieces together. And I really like the way the motifs went together and formed these sort of bigger patterns. And I really, really liked it. And I loved making it, and I hardly ever wear it. And the main reason is that I find it difficult to combine it with something else. So sure, I can wear it with black, I can wear it with white, but I don't really like it that much. And I don't really have anything in that yellow or that pink. Maybe I should make something especially to go with this shawl. That might be an idea. But anyway, the other piece I'm wearing today is this kimono jacket that I really like a lot. The yarn was on sale back when I worked at Wollerödel, and I think that was the main reason I bought it, because I've never been that big a fan of yellow, but they only had the yarn sufficient quantities in yellow and pink. I bought both, and yeah, so this is the kimono jacket. The pattern is from the book Knit Kimono by Vicky Square. And I once knit that kimono as well, but I gave it away. And the original of my jacket that I'm wearing today looks like this. So here's another picture. And maybe you can see that the arms in the pattern are a lot wider than I made it. So I think she has like 1/3 down here and then 2/3 in the sleeve. And I changed it to have 2/3 down here and then 1/3 in the sleeve, because I didn't want the sleeves to be that wide. And I'm really happy with, the way the sleeves and the front and back look now. And the way this is knit is fairly simple. You knit up the back, then you increase for the sleeves, you knit the whole back, then you cast off stitches for the neckline, and then one side is knit down, then the stitches are cast off and you knit down, and then the other half, and then there's one seam down this side and one seam down that side. So the construction is fairly simple, but it's perfect for a kimono jacket because kimonos have those straight lines, and the construction is fairly simple. And I've wanted to knit a lot more jackets from this book, but so far I haven't got around to doing that. Maybe someday. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing today. So I think even with the yellow jacket and this shawl, the combination probably isn't perfect, but I don't mind. It is yellow, both of them, so it should work. And at least I could show them to you today. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing. Then on to finished objects. I have one proper finished object and one partial finished object. And I have two new cast-ons, but one wasn't planned. I'll explain about that a bit later. So the proper finished project that I have, the finished object, are my lace socks for the pattern battle from the Opal subscription group, where one colorway is chosen and everybody who takes part has to use this colorway. And I chose to knit this pattern out of this beautiful book that I have with the lace patterned socks. And I managed to finish the second one last night. So it's a close call. And I haven't started a new sock because there wasn't time to do that yet. Yeah, really happy with them. I'm happy that that the colors are sort of offset from one another. They are going to my aunt as a belated birthday present, and I'm looking forward to sending them to her. So that's the proper finished object, and the partial finished object is another dishcloth or little towel, and I finished this thing that I've been knitting with the pattern from the Japanese Knitting Stitch Bible. And I told you that I had almost finished it before, and then I undid what I had knit to finish the pattern. So I have two pattern repeats widthwise and two pattern repeats lengthwise, and I actually managed to do all three garter ridges that I wanted to knit and cast off in the next row. And this is all that I had left from my ball of yarn. This is the reason, it's the reason that I haven't woven it in. I've woven in the other ends that I had, but I wanted to show you that I actually had this much left after I cast off the stitches, which I think is fantastic. And it's a very beautiful thing now, and I will probably use it as a towel and see how that works. I've never knitted or crocheted a towel before, and if it works well, I'll use it like as a guest hand towel in the guest bathroom, and if it doesn't really work, I'll use it as a dishcloth, and it'll just be a bigger dishcloth than usual. Yep, so now I have to start the next one to get my collection done so that I can finally call that project finished. Yeah, then on to works in progress, and I'll continue as usual with the socks. And I wanted to put a sock blocker in here, but I don't have to. Well, anyway, the first sock that I'm showing you is the 3 times a cable sock. It's a pattern from this year's Sock Madness. I finished the first sock. It was almost done last week. So I put this very nice sock blocker in that a friend of mine specially made for me. So she put the color on and put the motifs on. And I thought with the orange flower and the orange yarn, it's quite nice. And then it completely disappeared into the sock. Yeah, so this is the first sock. It has a very interesting toe, which has just very simple decreases in 4 places. I don't think I've ever knit a toe like this before, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. I quite like it. I might do it again. I'll definitely do it again with the second sock. Now for the second sock, I decided to switch the colors around. So instead of starting with the orange and then doing the gray, I first did the gray rolled edge, and I haven't put them together yet. For one, I didn't have the time, but I also thought it might be nice to show you how this works. So all I did, I knit one bit of stockinette stitch in one color, and then I used different needles and knit the second bit of stockinette in the other color, like this. And then all you do is you put them inside each other like this, And then what I'll be doing is I'll be knitting one stitch from this needle with one stitch from the other needle together, and then those two edges will be attached. And often if you do that with different colors on the top of the sock, you will cut off the colors that you're not using anymore. But as this is going to be a 2-color sock, I can leave both of the yarns hanging, and then I can just go straight into the 2-color pattern and do the second sock. So should be interesting. Some of the pattern disappears because of the many colors, and it'll be interesting to see whether one way of holding the colors shows the pattern better than the other. So with this pattern, we already have both options, because this is the same pattern as this, but with the colors reversed. And I think they both show fairly clearly. With this lace, cable pattern, the interesting thing is that this is actually a cable pattern. And then down here, it's just a 2-color pattern that sort of mimics this pattern, which I think is very interesting. But the hardest to see, I think, is this pattern, where you just have this 2-color braid running down the side. So this sort of supposed to look like a cable pattern, but it's just a 2-color pattern, and it just keeps disappearing into the background. So I'm really interested to see how this is going to look with the other color combination, or with the colors being reversed. Yeah, so that's that. Very interesting. It's probably going to take quite some more time, but usually with this kind of pattern, the second sock should be a bit quicker, because I already know how things work and I don't have to figure things out. I just have to look at the pattern to follow which stitch to knit in which color and when to do the cables. The other pair that I am still knitting are the colorful black dragon socks, and I continued knitting on the second one, and I've almost finished the leg. I think there's maybe another 10 rounds or maybe even less, and then I can knit the heel, and yeah, I can continue knitting them. Still enjoy that a lot. It's my preferred project to knit on when I'm busy concentrating on other things. So, and I will have to start at least one new pair of socks this week. We'll see. Yeah, that's that about socks. Then I have my 2 new projects, are both in the next section, so to say. So this is another project that I'm knitting on double pointed needles. And the reason I started that is because I wanted to tell you about a new app. And I wanted to do that last week, but without a project, I just keep forgetting these things. So I had to start a project so I could tell you about the new app by Tin Can Knits. If you've watched more of my videos before, you probably know that I'm a fan of the designers behind Tin Can Knits. I love knitting their patterns. I've knit quite a few of their free patterns. I've bought quite a lot of their paid-for patterns. And they've now created an app that you can use to knit their patterns. And so far you can only knit the free patterns in the app, but they are working to extend the collection. So at some point, I think we'll be able to knit any of their patterns in the app. And at first, I wasn't quite sure whether it was really necessary, because we have the Knit Companion, which is a very nice app that I use a lot on my phone to help me with reading patterns, and especially with like Sock Madness socks. If I have big charts, it helps me to keep my place, to remember where to continue knitting. I really love using this app. But with the Tin Can Knits app, it's organized completely differently. But the main idea, I think, behind that app is that Tin Can Knits are famous for having especially their pullover and cardigan patterns in many, many sizes, which is great. You can knit the same pullover for everyone in the family, but sometimes it makes reading the patterns a bit more difficult because you have a lot of numbers. Sometimes you have several yarn weights, and it can be a bit daunting to go through that pattern, and not everybody wants to print it out and mark their own size, or maybe then later you want to knit a different size. So with the app, you tell the app which pattern you want to knit, which yarn size you want to use, and then which size you want to knit. And then the app only gives you the numbers that you need at that moment, which I think is a fantastic idea. My second favorite feature is that you can choose between inches and centimeters. And I love that because I live in Germany. I've grown up doing things in centimeters, and I can work with inches if I concentrate, but centimeters are just so much easier for me. So it's great to have that option. And then the pattern, you will see the pattern, and then it tells you what to do. And then you can push on the, I think it's an arrow or something, and then it goes to the next step in the pattern, and it will always highlight what you have to do. And this is what I've knit with the app so far. So I chose to do the world's simplest mittens. I've always wanted, I'm not quite sure whether I've knit that before or not, but I decided this is going to be the first project that I'll do with the app, just to see how it works and to try it out. So you start off casting on so many stitches depending on your size and the yarn weight you use, and then you're supposed to knit so many centimeters. And then there is an option to put in notes. So I could write down how many rounds I knit. So I was told to do so many centimeters, but then I could put in, I knit 16 rounds. So for the second mitt, I didn't have to check the first one. I could just see I did 16 rounds. Then it tells you to knit 3 rounds. Then you do the first round of increase for the thumb gusset. And then it says to repeat the 3 rounds 5 times. And I sort of felt like I was looking for the feature that we have in the Knit Companion, where you can sort of count the rows that you knit or the repeats that you do. But then I noticed if you keep pressing the arrow, it will jump to 1 of 5 repeats. And then you knit the 3 rounds, you push the button, and it goes to 2 and to 3. And so it does the counting for you. It's really, really good. And then, but even though it highlights the part of the pattern that you are doing at the moment, you can always scroll down and up to see what's coming next, what have I done before, make sure you've actually done everything. So it's a really, really good app, I think. And yeah, so that's the reason I started knitting these mittens. This is an old yarn, Decke or 6-ply sock yarn by Opal. I think I knit a pair of house shoes for myself some time ago or several years ago, and had this leftover yarn lying around, and I decided these are nice kids mittens. So I finished the first one, started the second one. I have knitted the 3 rounds, so I'm just about to start the increases for the thumb, and the mittens are constructed in a way that you can actually wear this on the right or left hand, which I think is, especially for kids, is perfect. And yeah, sorry. I'm knitting a pair of the world's easiest mittens by Tin Can Knits, trying out their new app. I can only recommend trying that app out. The app is for free. All the patterns that you see at the moment are free. So it's a fantastic way to get to know their patterns if you don't know them yet. And I can only recommend trying to use that app. So I am pretty sure I won't knit a Tin Can Knits pattern without the app in the future. So if I want to knit a different pattern, it'll have to wait until it's programmed into the app. So that's the first new project, and that's the one that I had planned on doing. I had wanted to start it last week, or the week before, didn't get round to doing it. So started that last week. And then I started another new project that I hadn't planned to do, but a friend of mine who I sing in the choir with told me that he had a niece who was a preemie, who was a premature baby, and he wondered if I would be willing to knit a little hat for the baby. And of course, I'm willing to knit preemie things. I was a preemie when I was born, so yeah, I love doing that. These things are tiny. They are not planned for. No parents buy preemie things in advance. Usually you don't know that. Sometimes you do, but usually you don't. So I think it's a good thing to help those parents out. And I picked up this yarn. It's another Opal Abo, a subscription colorway. It was part of the pattern battle as well. I knit another pair of mitts with this yarn. I knit the Pay It Forward mitts by Jorge Locatelli, and I thought it was a very nice light color. Should be a nice little hat for a little girl, and this is what I have so far. It's a pattern by a German organization who knit for premature babies. Unfortunately, I couldn't link to it on Ravelry for some reason, but I will probably put down in my notes what I'm knitting. It's just, I just cast on 80 stitches. The pattern says you can do a few more or fewer stitches. And then I'm knitting something like 13 to 14 centimeters and then do decreases. So it's a very simple pattern. It's a free pattern. And yeah, this is what it looks like. It really looks tiny, but with the 2x2 rib pattern, it means it can fit on a tiny hat. And if it's too long, you can roll up the edge. And then as the baby grows, you can fold less up, or it can wear it like this. And it stretches to quite a bigger size. And I know I'm not going to use a lot of yarn, so I will have enough yarn left to also knit a pair of spiral socks for the baby. So it should be a set of a little hat and a pair of spiral socks. So that was the unplanned for new project, but I'm really happy to be knitting that. Okay, then to the clothes or bigger project that I'm working on at the moment. I'll start with a kid's dress that I'm knitting. It's the girl is 10 years old, so she's almost as tall as I am. So even though it's a kid's dress, it's not a small project. This is the Bilberry pattern by Nora Gorn, and I think last week I'd already put the sleeve stitches on hold, and I started the increases. Oh, I got another row counter or round counter from my friend, because the increases in the dress are done every 10 rounds. So it's like the other one that I'm using for the sock for the 10 rounds. So I got another one from her, and I can just switch it every time I come across the beginning of round. I'll switch it to the next ring. And when I've gone through the whole chain once, I know I can do the next increases so that the dress gets wider as it gets longer. Really happy with it. This is some very simple knitting now as well. Another project I can do, but concentrate on other things. The next project is my cashmere pullover. That's not my pullover anymore. So I've decided to give the pullover to my sister. I don't think I knit a lot onto the front and back anymore. I think this is probably the same length it was last week. But I started knitting the ribbing on one of the sleeves. This shows us so much stuff. So many threads. Yep, so this is what I've done on the sleeve. I'm pretty sure it needs to be a bit longer still, because the sleeves weren't that long. I stopped knitting when the ball of yarn was finished, and I've put a new one on for the ribbing now. Yeah, I'll continue a bit of the ribbing, and then I'll probably have my sister try the pullover on tomorrow when I see her, and then I can take notes how many more rounds I need for the sleeve and how many more rounds she wants on the front and back. I can then start the second sleeve, and then probably before I cast things off, I'll have her try it on again. So that's that. It's the cashmere by Hansa Farm, and it's a pattern from the book, something with circular yokes, the most beautiful circular yokes, something like that. It's linked underneath the video. If you're interested, you can find the book there. Then I continued knitting on the llama yarn pullover that I started the week before, and it's such a quick knit. I'm knitting on 6mm needles. It's a Nicolor pattern by Nicola Susan. That's her name. I was thinking of Susan last week, but it's Nicola Susan. Susan's her last name. And yeah, it's such a quick knit. I really enjoy doing it. It's a maximum freedom pattern Now you don't have to knit your swatch because the back of the pullover actually is your swatch, and then you do some measuring, and then you knit until you get this size, and then you continue, and it's a really quick knit. And yeah, so there's only one round of white on this side because for some reason I moved the beginning of round. I'm not quite sure what I did there, but I don't think it's a problem. I think I may have enough stitches already for the sleeves in the front and back, but I do need a bit more depth in the yoke. So I'm going to finish knitting these 8 rounds, and then I'll try it on and then take it from there. And at first I thought I was only going to do the white stripes in the yoke, but I've only done 3 stripes. And I still have so much of the white yarn left from the one skein that I have, that I'm now thinking of continuing the stripes in the body the way it's in the pattern, but maybe not doing them in the sleeves, something like that. I don't know, but we'll see. So the pattern is Wiener Hop by Nicolor, Maximum Freedom pattern that I'm really enjoying a lot. Yeah, then what else have we got? I brought my alpaca lace granny square that I didn't show you last week, and I did manage to finish the last round of proper granny square pattern, and I started putting in the beads that I want in my square. So not too many yet, but I really like the way these clear beads look. Just a bit of sparkle, no color at all. So if I fold things over and they hit at some other place in the shawl, it will always look nice. And yeah, I'm finally at the last round of my huge granny square alpaca lace yarn square. And I'm already looking forward to wearing it, and really happy. I'm very confident that this is going to be enough yarn to finish that one round. It just takes a lot of time because I do 2 double crochets and then I have to put on a bead, and that just takes time, but it's okay. I enjoy the process and the finished object, so that's great. That's that, and then I come to the last project. That's the crochet along that we're doing here on this channel and in the Ravelry group, and I am crocheting a hexagon cardigan. And yep, you've already seen the 2 halves put together, and I've added a bit of length down here. I haven't continued that at all last week. But what I did is I used the leftover bit of yarn that I had from the red colorway to lengthen this arm, and then I did the same on the other arm. And when I finished the red yarn, I continued crocheting with the blue yarn, and this is probably the length that I will want for my sleeves. And I could not finish the round. So I think there are 5 double crochets missing, and I ran out of yarn, which is rather crazy, but I thought, well, I'll leave it like that. Maybe once I've done the rest of the cardigan and I see how it buttons up, I may want to add another round. So I thought I won't do the few stitches until I'm perfectly sure how long I want the sleeves to be. Yeah, I'll probably have to cut the yarn on this side. I don't know. So the next thing I want to do is add the same number of rounds to this sleeve that I have on this, and then I might leave the ball of yarn hanging on this because this is just another leftover bit, and then I can use the new ball of yarn to crochet lengthwise and then do the other rounds and stuff. We'll talk before I get to that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so that's everything. This should be everything that I knit and crocheted last week. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!